Good morning to everybody. This is the first appointment of a conversation, a cycle of 3 conversations organized by the Blue Zone Foundation on the theme of building and fostering startup ecosystems in Sardinia. This is an event that we decided to organize to give visibility to the startup summer camp that we just started yesterday in Tortoli in Sardinia, having as coaches Gideon Marks and Chris Burry, which I will introduce you in a few minutes. It's a kind of conversation that we will have with the two, and then on the 13th at 12 and on the 16th at 12, we will have a second round of conversation, the first with Chris Burry in a conversation with Abinsula, a local company in Sardinia specializing in the ICT sector for the automotive. And the third one will be on the 16th at 12 with Gideon Marks and the company called Greta Tulipani, which is a company in Sardinia specialized on the fashion sector, working in Italy and in the African market. So why we organize this kind of events? We organize this kind of events because Fondazione Blue Zone is focused on fostering innovation and local development in Sardinia. It's a foundation which was created last year, participated by the Provincia di Nuoro, Camera di Commercio di Nuoro, Consorzio Universitario di Nuoro, by the local school of Tortoli, which is the ITS of IANAS, which is involved in the touristic sector for young boys for looking for a diploma. And also a bunch of company, among which Opificio Innova, who is the operating company Manifattura Tabacchi in Cagliari. We decided to launch this startup summer camp, which is a nice opportunity for young people willing to build their own enterprise in Sardinia. And we realized this summer camp, thanks to the support of Fondazione di Sardegna and with the local support and in partnership with the Consorzio Industriale Tortoli. It's a program of 2 weeks, completely free for the participants. We received a lot of applications, over 60 actually, and we selected only 15 persons, which started yesterday the program with Gideon and Marks, that they're now inside the conversation. I say hello to Gideon, hello to Chris. Hi, welcome. So I will introduce you briefly. First, Chris Burry. We know each other, Chris, since 4 or 5 years nowadays. We partnered in several projects and initiatives. Probably the most important was for us the Talent Hub program of the region of Sardinia, in which you were involved as a USMEC for helping the founders to find their own way to build their company. Who is Chris Burry? Chris Burry is, he defines himself as a serial entrepreneur. He built 5 companies, 5 exits, very good exits in the ICT sector. He's the co-founder of USMEC. USMEC, maybe you will say a few words, Chris, about USMEC. It's a company specialized in incubating and accelerating startups in Silicon Valley. And which is very special of Chris is that he traveled the world with USMEC because they help governments to stimulate the startup ecosystems all around the world. They work in Europe, Middle East, Asia, Japan. And so he have a very great experience on what it means to build an ecosystem in countries where there are no Silicon Valleys, let me say like that. So this was Chris Burry. What about Gideon Marks? Gideon Marks, who is on your left on the screen, is also him, serial entrepreneur, 3 companies public on NASDAQ, 4 merger and acquisition successfully conducted, strong operational background on finance, business, corporate development, and also working in Korea, Israel, Japan, Silicon Valley. Both of them are also investors. And so we have 2 persons, 2 experts, which are entrepreneurs, investors, and coaches of startups. By the way, Gideon Mark also has a very nice company that maybe he will introduce a little bit, which is called Dialogo, who is an app for people who love dogs. Let's say like that. Then we will have some more details from Gideon. So let's go on the team. Yesterday was day 1 of the Startup Summer Camp. You had the chance to know these 15 guys coming from all over Sardinia. And I know what you did yesterday because I was with you. So you asked them to say why they were there. So maybe the first question I would like to ask you both is which were your first impressions about the group of founders you met yesterday? First, Chris.
Yeah, so the thing that I was really quite impressed with the group, and you know, one of the things that we talk about a lot is that being a startup founder is hard. It's not the easy path. It's not the easy path in life. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of passion. And the very fact that these people, you know, have taken time out of their busy schedules to come and do this and to explore how they can make their dream, how they can make their idea a reality, says a lot about them as people, right? And, you know, that's the first thing that we always look for in entrepreneurs is, you know, great ideas happen all over the place all the time. Great founders are very rare, right? It takes a special kind of person to say, you know what, I'm going to leave the normal path. I'm not going to work at the bank. I'm not going to work, you know, at the hotel or whatever. I'm going to go do this thing on my own. And I was super impressed with the sort of the spirit of the people in the program, and also just their courage. I mean, this is being a founder takes courage. We were talking about this today, about that they need to be fearless, right? And I don't know what's going to become of all of their ideas, but every single one of the people in the room, the very fact that they've made the choice and they have shown up speaks well of what they will do in the future. You're on mute, Graziano.
That sounds encouraging. And what about your impressions, Gideon?
So first of all, thanks for having us. Great pleasure for us. I would say that besides echoing what Chris just said, I'm impressed with young people who are eager for obtaining knowledge and find time to listen to so-called experts in a domain. I'm also impressed by the fact that it's a very diverse group of young people. I think that the ratio is about 50-50 between female and male, which is always wonderful to see. There's so many places still, you know, the men are usually the majority. So kudos to you guys for obtaining at least 50% women entrepreneurs, women founders, and the hunger, their desire to learn, listen, and being coached is very impressive.
Thank you, Gideon. Chris, I think that our public is really interested on your experience traveling the world, helping governments in building startup and startup ecosystems, which is a definition of something very complex. Could you say something about which were your lessons learned traveling the world? You did this kind of work in, I think, in all the 5 continents, and you worked in ecosystems which were already mature, Silicon Valley first, but also I know that you had the experience of working also in Japan and other countries which have already some network and system for helping startups to born and to accelerate. But what about building an ecosystem in a country starting from scratch or having a poor experience about that? Because I think that this is very interesting to us because we're looking at Sardinia in this moment. So maybe there are some lessons learned from abroad.
Well, the first thing, you know, we've now run, my company US Mac has run close to 200 similar types of training, coaching, mentoring programs all over the world. Something like 40 countries. I don't even count really anymore. Great entrepreneurs are everywhere. Innovation is everywhere. Smart people is everywhere. People with drive, ambition, everywhere. It's stunning to me. We were recently running a program in Central and Southeast Asia and came across a team of entrepreneurs from a village in Cambodia. I mean, we're talking, you know, really at the edge. And they had developed a way of filtering water so that it would become drinkable using coconut husks. And it's just like, wow, you know, it's this desire to innovate is everywhere. But your comment on the ecosystem is really important because all ecosystems are not the same. Their opportunity is not equal. The drive, the ambition, the individuals are there, but the opportunity presented by the ecosystem is not. And the mistake that we see made in many places around the world is that the people who are trying to help build the ecosystem don't take what we would consider to be a holistic view. They just work on one little piece. It's, well, we need to get more investment capital, or we need to do this little thing. And the analogy that I use, and I use this in describing what entrepreneurs do as well, but ecosystems are like Rubik's cubes, right? It's multi-sided. And the thing about solving a Rubik's cube is that you have to solve all of the parts at the same time. You can't just say, I just want to solve green. If you just solve green, everything else is still a mess. If you just solve red, everything else is still a mess. And it requires a much broader coalition to do it right. So for instance, universities need to become really active players, and they need to be training students in entrepreneurship. They can't just be training them to be programmers or be MBAs or whatever. They need to actually be teaching innovation. They need to be teaching entrepreneurship. And this is hard for universities because it's not something they have traditionally done. The government needs to be really focused on what is the regulatory and tax environment for startups and for investors. Businesses, the larger employers, actually need to find ways to embrace entrepreneurs, to be able to, if an entrepreneur brings an idea to a big business and says, hey, would you be willing to try this? The big business needs to be willing to say yes, right? And they can't, the business needs a different approach. They can't say, well, have you been in business for 5 years? Can you send us 50 references? It's like, no, I'm trying to get my first customer. The the businesses need to become the early adopters. And so the challenge is not to create point solutions. The challenge is to build all of it together at the same time. And it requires more actors than most people realize.
Thank you very much. That's interesting. It sounds interesting for the experience and the kind of scenario we hope that will be in Sardinia in the next years, thanks to the agency of everybody. I mean, as you said, probably it's a play that all players should do all together. University, for the research, the public government, private companies, services. I mean, I think that services and places where you can receive services and hosting those new companies are important. One of the things that is typical in mature ecosystems is that you have hubs of innovations, incubators, accelerators, events for meeting investors, which are in the normal weekly agenda. So this is the kind of scenario we should try to help to be built in Sardinia. So thank you very much for this kind of experience. And what about Gideon? About Gideon, I was impressed about his experience in working 20 years in Israel and 20 years in Silicon Valley. Now, we know that Israel is one of the top 10 probably innovation ecosystems for startups in the world. It's very interesting. In the Mediterranean, represents probably the best hub that we have. There are specific traits of this kind of ecosystem, but everybody knows Silicon Valley, a few know Israeli. Which are the main differences between a small, powerful country like Israel building its ecosystems and the ecosystem in Silicon Valley?
So first of all, you exposed my age by saying 20 years in Israel and 20 years in but it's okay. And yeah, I'm originally from Israel, and I did spend a few years there in Silicon Valley. And I've seen how the Israeli high-tech ecosystem has evolved from switching a country from being textile, agriculture, and tourism into a superpower in technology. So the main thing is it's doable. So how do you do it? As Chris mentioned, you've got to have an ecosystem that collaborates. So universities, the military technology, which can be commercialized. You've got to have great universities, eager students. I think that diversity that we have in Silicon Valley and in Israel really helps, different cultures, different type of people think differently. Conversations between different people usually stimulate new ideas. And I think that once people understand that technology, entrepreneurship can pull the whole country to become a better place economically, suddenly things begin to move. I can attest to the fact that in Israel, there were special laws that were created to encourage foreign investors and R&D, research and development. And there were a lot of grants given to promote companies to pursue development. And they realized that when you're so far away from international markets, you've got to help also companies with sales initiatives, marketing initiatives. So thank God that there were enough smart people that realized that one should combine a lot of efforts. And once you combine it, I think the story can begin to roll, and suddenly you're a success. But it's not a revolution. It's something that I like to use the term evolution. It's a journey. You start slowly, and hopefully the waves begin to create, promote, generate more and more entrepreneurs. This is what I've seen happening in Israel, for instance.
I would like to build on what Gideon just said, that one of the mistakes that we see governments make is that they think that results can happen really fast. You know, that they think that, well, we're going to invest for 2 years and magically we're going to have one of the, you know, the top 5 entrepreneurial innovation ecosystems in the world. It's a generational exercise. It's, you know, Silicon Valley honestly traces its roots back to before World War II. You know, it's 80 years of history in Silicon Valley. You look at the rise of the startup nation Israel, you know, it's 20, 25 years in the making. And it is a generational exercise. And the thing that we see with a lot of governments around the world is like, you know, why can't we just do something for 2 years and magically everything's better? That's not the, you know, it's not the way that it works. It's just, it takes time, it takes sustained attention, it takes sustained investment.
I want to add something. I think that one of the things that we need still to understand is that you need to have these amazing, passionate people who spearhead a lot of these initiatives. If you don't have what we refer as the crazy, motivated people that are so interested in making, let's say, Sardinia a more tech geography, it won't happen. You need always to have these pioneers, gate openers that will just demonstrate to others what needs to be done. So in Silicon Valley, in Israel, and some other geographies, you always have these bunch of the initiators who started everything, and without them, things would have not happened. So, very important.
I remember, Gideon, that you also had a nice experience in coaching in an incubator in the Hawaii Islands, which was really peculiar because in Hawaii, the incubator was launched in a place with a population of 1.3, 1.4, and so not a big market, and surrounded by the sea. So which was the clue there? Which was the challenge, and how it was the experience to encourage startuppers?
Yeah, I mean, I remember you and I talked a couple of days.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
I remember I said, wow, it's the second time that I'm coming to an island and similar population, 1.3 versus 1.6. And then I realized that Israel was also kind of an island, the Mediterranean on one side and surrounded by, in the past, non-friendly countries. So I think that once you live in an island, sometimes you've got to think out of the box or out of the island. So, and I remember when I was approached to do my mentorship in Hawaii, the very initial response was, what? Do they have an accelerator there? And once I began to explore it, I realized that, again, you have a few people who spearhead some kind of initiatives. A lot of people will look at them as these weird people, but you need these people, and they were able to get funding from private investors, from the state of Hawaii government, and because it's Hawaii, a lot of people like me actually will be more than happy to travel there and do free mentorship. So they created this balanced team that is always eager. And I spent there 4 months. I worked with, it was interesting, the ratio, 5 startups from Hawaii, 1 from Singapore, 1 from Canada, and 3 from mainland US. And this was a very interesting concept because it's about diversity. The locals could learn from the foreigners of the mainland USA. Just like here, I do hope that when we'll begin to see more and more startups in Sardinia, we should invite also Italian and European and others, because the discussions they have amongst themselves is so fruitful and contributing to each one. It was a good experience.
Yeah, you touch a good point, Gideon, which is as mentors, I think that it's not only giving back your experience, guiding, helping to understand the market and understanding the journey, the entrepreneur's journey, but it's also building relationships, building networks between founders, investors, other startups, the community around. So I think when I was in San Francisco and I spent some days with Chris, I was impressed about the sense of community there is there, about giving back, but also being around the new founders with solutions and with tips, relations, any kind of help. And I remember that Chris told me, the first rule here is ask. If you need help, ask, because there will be always somebody that will help you, give you an answer, give you a suggestion. So this is something that you experience as entrepreneur and as investors, but also as mentor. What is the most what is you enjoy most about coaching? What is the role you see for yourself when you play the role of the mentor? And do you have a mentoring strategy? It's a question I would like an answer from both of you.
So since Chris offered me to give the opening answer, so I think it's a combination of a few things that are personal. So I think that the fact that, for instance, I had a nice career, and I think that I gained experience, knowledge, and it's giving back. I think that I'm interested. I'm a father to 4 children, and I want to see that the world they live in will be a better place than what we have now. So if I have something that I can help the younger generation, not just my kids, but actually all over the world, gain from mistakes I've done, success stories I had, it's a wonderful feeling. That's to begin with. And I think that also, as you get older, to be honest, you want to stay relevant. And when you work with young people, it's a win-win combination. You provide a lot of your experience and knowledge, but you also get back something which I call youth energy. Young people usually have this amazing energy and want to make the world better. And we, the older generation, we suck it and we give them something in exchange. It's the value proposition.
It's value exchange.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We just discussed it today with your entrepreneurs, and here's an example.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Graziano.
Yeah, no, I was curious. Which was your biggest accomplishment as a startup coach? Something you want to tell, a story you want to tell us?
So many. I mean,
Something you could tell the story about at a dinner because you're proud about.
well, for me, to build on what Gideon said, for me, I always love it when it's like a cartoon. You're talking to the founder and you can see the light bulb, and the light bulb over their head turns on. And they're like, oh, wow, I get it. I get it now, right? To actually you can see it in their, face, right? You can, their body language changes, their tone of voice changes. That like, aha, that's such a fabulous feeling that you've been able to transfer this knowledge, you've been able to change their life, you've been able to change their trajectory. One of my favorite founders that I worked with over time was from Poland. I actually ended up on his board of directors and was an investor in his company. And he embraced the idea of entrepreneurship. He started out as a lawyer and ended up being a really interesting entrepreneur, which is like, talk about a, complete lifestyle change. And we ended up selling the company, but we ended up selling the company mostly because he figured out that it wasn't going to be successful as a standalone entity. It had great value for a company that bought it, and it was a very nice exit. It was a good exit. But I was really proud of him to be able to stop and look and say, you know what? We've poured years of our heart and soul into making this company successful. We've grown it. We have 20, 30 people, customers, all of this. But the right thing to do is to sell it. I mean, that's like, okay, that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of honesty. It takes a lot of self-reflection to realize that that's the case. But what was interesting was that he took all of the lessons about how to help a company grow that he learned as an entrepreneur and joined another startup and has now helped that startup grow at about 300% per year. And that's the kind of thing where, we were talking about this over the last couple of days with the students here, is this is about acquiring a skill set that then you can deploy for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
And kind of his life with this other company, right? But it's been just amazing to watch his growth over a 4 or 5 year period from, I'm really struggling with all kinds of stuff, to I'm now running sales and marketing of a startup that's gone global, and we're growing at 300% per year. And that's just fantastic. The other story I would tell is that there's a startup that we did business, we helped out of the Czech Republic. And we worked with them. They were great founders. They were really struggling with sort of where did they fit in the value chain? Where did they fit in their customer's value chain? And they figured it out, and they changed all of their messaging around, okay, we fit differently in the universe. And this is a Czech company, another company out of Europe, sort of became aware of what these guys were doing and came and bought them. And bought them for $120, $130 million. And that's fun to watch in terms of their ability to take the ideas that we have shared, mold them, apply them to their own company, and then ultimately have a fantastic exit for them. It's like 30 people in the company, $120 million. As we say, a good day at the office.
Okay. So we have 5 minutes more before closing. Before closing, I will remember that Chris will have a conversation on the 13th with Solinius, the CEO of Abinsula, which is I'm glad you will meet them because they're probably the most innovative ICT company we have in Sardinia. They're very smart and they are global. So to the audience, keep tuned, and we will see on the 13th on the same channels and at noon. Yes. Last question for both of you, because you're both investors. In a few words, what do you look in a company when you decide to invest or not to invest? Do you have an investment thesis?
So it's really simple. It's simple and it's not simple. But I always look at founders, right? Are these the people that have it in them to be successful? Do they have the drive? Do they have the passion? Do they have the level of ambition? Because I can't teach someone how to be passionate about their business. I can't teach them to be ambitious, right? I can't teach them to be flexible. So I'm starting out with, I need to see great founders, people who have the right, what we would refer to as entrepreneurial mindset, because that's really hard to teach somebody. And we know that, oh, it's a process, that you don't get everything right at the beginning. You do something, you learn, you do something, you learn, you do something, you learn. And if the founders aren't willing to learn, they're never going to be successful. The second thing I look at is what's the opportunity that you have discovered? Where is there some hole? Where is there some gap that you have identified in the market where the existing solutions are inadequate? You know, I tend not to be very interested in what I would call Me Too startups. It's like, it's another food delivery app. It's another, I'm going to sell shoes online or whatever. I'm looking for someone who had an insight that was able to say, aha, if we did this, we could create this great value for our customers. And it's going to be so much better than any of the competition.
Mm-hmm. I see. And what about you, Gideon? What do you look in companies where you decide to invest?
So I'll be very humble. I'll say that when I look at my exits, I was lucky mostly. And the luck has to do with the people you know who will introduce you, in many cases, to the greatest new companies. And I give credit to the people that referred me to opportunities. And this is the first thing. I think that I was very blessed to know that people that it's my network. And so they already kind of did the due diligence for me. But I will echo exactly what Chris said. It's about the quality of the team, the founders. Investors invest in people. And if the team is not comprised of great mindset, the people that are ready to sacrifice their time, they hop on planes, and fly 12 hours to their markets. If they're not willing to add additional team members that are better than them, if they're not willing to talk to their customers, I will not invest in these companies. I always look at the team and hope for the best. That's my formula, and I'm very grateful, as I said, to my lovely network that every year exposes me to one more interesting stuff.
So that's we can close with this because it's something which is by sure to be developed. The relevance of the teams, of the persons, and the relevance of the network connecting to the right persons. So this is something which is interesting for us, and maybe we will talk more about next times. So thank you very much, Chris Burry. Thank you very much, Gideon Marks. This was the first appointment. Now I switch in Italian. Era il primo appuntamento di una serie di 3 conversazioni che stiamo organizzando. Il secondo appuntamento è il 13 alle 12 e il terzo appuntamento è il 16 alle 12. E vi invito a seguirci. Il prossimo appuntamento sarà con Antonio Solinas di Abinsula e la conversazione l'avrà con Gideon Marks, e con Valentina Ceppi di Greta Tulipani il 16 insieme a Chris Burry. So thank you very much to both of you, and okay, good work with the group of founders in Tortoli for the Startup Summer Camp. Bye. Bye to everybody.
Ciao.